Hey mamas, how are you?
No, we're not doing the how are you fish.
Oh, okay, I'm very well though.
Very passive aggressive today. We don't care how we are.
My name's Jess.
My name's Erica.
And I'm Melissa.
Mama's Code.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been feeling a bit upset recently. I just look at like the kids and I think they're growing up so fast.
Sometimes as a mum we get, so consumed in being the best for them. We have to be the best mums, we have to be the best wives, and we're so invested into parenthood that sometimes we forget to be ourselves. And we have to kind of think that once upon a time we were someone with dreams and goals, and we had to kind of put a stop to it to bring up our kids, because we can't do the things that we would have liked to with them present. Not saying that we're never going to do it, but that's what often happens. And sometimes that's why we say we kind of lose our identity and we get sidetracked and do different things. And maybe, like I know for one that before I had Joe, I wanted to do my masters, but then I had him and I was like, no, next year. And it's been 5 years. And I just always push it off because I just feel like I'll lose a lot of time with my kids. But then obviously after watching Dirty John, Betty series, it kind of made me think, as parents, we do absolutely everything for our kids. And this woman, obviously you don't do things expecting anything back, right? But I was watching an interview of this lady's kids, and the way they talk about their mum is just absolutely disgusting. They show no sympathy for what their mother went through. And it's like you can basically see that they were raised by a narcissist dad and a manipulative one as well. I just don't know. I just think like they weren't even that young. So clearly you must have some memories of what they went through. Like it just made me really think, like I often get asked, what do you want out of life? And sometimes I don't even know what to say, because I'm living my present moment. I'm doing everything for my boys. I want to give them the best. But then I start thinking, obviously I'm not going to go kill Camillo, pero it just kind of shows, this lady did absolutely everything for her kids. And this is how they pay her back.
I think obviously for a woman, once they have children, their life seems to be the one that goes more on a pause than the man, right? Because even though we're moving to a more equal kind of society and how things are seen, the woman still is the one who takes on more of the baggage, because obviously we carry the kids, we birth the kids, we have to recover from them. And then there's that, if you're breastfeeding them or whatever, you spend some time. So,
but I think what you're trying to say, like that's a good point. But this is now, now men have some sort of responsibility because of in the generation we're at.
Yeah,
we're talking the 80s, 60s. These generations didn't, condone this. Like you're the mom, you stay at home, and do all the housework, and you raise the kids.
Well, the roles were very split.
Exactly. The man would have to go out and make the money. But, for me, that's like, you're a part-time dad, babe. You bring in money in, but have no responsibility within the household.
But you know what? I think we say that maybe it's a bit better now, but the reality is it's probably, there's still a percentage of people who see it that way, who are still very like, this is a woman's role, this is a man's role, I'm the breadwinner, you're the one that stays at home, you're the one that does this. And we've spoken about kind of raising our children and raising them to know that they can and they should do a bit of everything. It's not because you're a boy, only girls are the one cooking and cleaning and whatever, or it's not because you're a girl, that's only the thing you can do. Like, we're raising them to know equality, let's say. I found it a bit difficult to kind of understand how it was even possible for her to go through everything she went through, going through therapy, going with lawyers, and no one at no point raised the alarm bell in terms of her mental health.
But again,
she was obviously...
This happened at a time when people didn't understand coercive control, and he gaslighted her. So he manipulated this woman to doubting her own sanity. He had control of her whole life. That he, and like a lawyer, he's powerful, big man up there. He literally had all the money in the world to turn absolutely everyone. Like we established, she had no chance in winning this case. Absolutely none.
But do you think that's probably the case then, just because he was a very powerful lawyer and the one that he could pay
100%.
off? Because
100%.
Would it have been a different case where they weren't as wealthy, then maybe they would have taken more into account the fact that she did have mental illness behind you know, what triggered it or what could have caused her to go in that state, because for all we know, he probably paid people off. You can't really think of, like, what I'm trying to say is, you can't, a person like that with so much power, so much money and control, you wouldn't be surprised if they would have.
Oh, it's happening in this day and age, you know. If you have money, you have power. That's what it means. For the most part, I think it's just in the generation they were at. Mental illness, like, you know, if you ask our grandparents, that's why they say, you know, women now are a bit weak, because, you know, now we suffer from depression and anxiety, and they may have felt something similar, but it was like frowned upon, you know, you couldn't really talk about it. Again, back there, it was a very big thing, you know, the man could hit the woman, the man could play the woman outside of the house, and it was absolutely normal. But that can mentally fuck you up. But it wasn't seen as a big thing.
One of the major points is as well prioritizing yourself as a woman. Whatever we can do to benefit our children and our partner, we will do before we do to ourselves, which is why we love to promote self-love and self-care. And the day, you know, I've said it a million times, the day that our child is born, we're born as well. But it's almost like people forget this, and people think, oh, you're just the strong one that has to deal with the household, the children. And so what you guys are saying about, is it because obviously the man was the macho and back in the generations? Yes, it does play a big part. But I think because women back then were so complacent to, I just have to stay in my corner and in my lane and do this. I can't speak my emotions, because in Betty's situation, she lived off Dan. Like, she had no independence whatsoever. She did at the beginning, which is what, she was the one that put him through law school, through medical school. Like, the part when he came home and he was like, oh, I think I need another one of these coats, like the medical coats. You know, she was like, it's a bit expensive, maybe we should wait. And he was like, no. And what did she do? She agreed to it. She knew that whatever she wanted.
But she agreed
because of him.
Because he was very manipulative.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it would be like, well, you know, if you don't have this one in time, then what's going to happen if, you know, I can't go into... It was always using things like, if we don't do this, we won't get hit. If we don't do that.
And he had this thing of, you know, if we show that, if our image is that we are wealthy people, we're going to get there, even if we're not eating at home. And he always implemented this on her. So it gave her no choice. And she always wanted to support him, like, as people say, like a wife should support a man. But if you want to live that rich lifestyle, if you want your kids to have all of this, if you want to have these fancy things, you need to sacrifice the food on your plate and on our children to be able to get there. And so everything that I can do to be the man that brings the money to the table, you need to basically drop everything and do it for me. That was his blackmail, I guess. Like, his little, this is how he would lure her in.
How he would control her.
Exactly, because he was like, you want to live the lavish lifestyle? Well, then give me all the money you have so that I can do that. She at no point thought, hold on a minute, what if tomorrow he wakes up and he doesn't love me? Not that we always think this, but because they were in that generation, you know? She never thought for 1 second, I also need to be independent from this man.
But that's because she was so invested into him, and but it's like you said, like, we don't go into a relationship thinking, well, you know, one day he's going to get up.
You put in your all, kind of, to make something flourish.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you give in your all. However, and this is a personal thing, you shouldn't be 100% dependent on a man, because shit like this can happen. One day, a man can provide everything for you, and the next, they can pick up their shit and leave you, and you're left with nothing.
So, you know, you're saying that a friend of my mum's, she went through kind of a similar situation. And I remember when I found out I was pregnant, obviously we were speaking, and she was going through a separation with her ex-husband. And I was just like, oh, like, if you could give one advice, like, what would it be? And she literally said, and when I was watching this, all I could think about was her. She was like, whatever you do, never stop working. And even when you have, make sure you've always got for a rainy day. So she literally had her children. She stopped working completely to raise her. She had her career, but she put it on hold. She thought, let me raise my children.
So my partner can work?
Yeah. So
Why should it be like that?
She has 2 kids. And then one day, things just started going downhill. And then all of a sudden, he's moved out. He's found someone else. He's living with someone else. They're now going through a messy divorce. And all of a sudden she's like, I haven't worked for the last 10 years because I've invested everything in my children and raising them and kind of being the one that's at home and kind of, you know, working at home. And that's what she said to me. And when I was watching Betty, I was literally like, wow, that happened in the 60s. This happened, I had Maya 2 years ago. And that's what she said to me. Literally, if one advice, she was like, always save for a rainy day. Never, don't stop working. Even if it's a little bit, even if it's part-time, always try, because just don't be reliant. You know, it could be obviously that she's still hurting, but for her it was a wake-up call, because for her, she had to pick herself up and rebuild herself after having 10 years of someone there. Yes, he was bringing in the money, but she was working at home. You know, we could say it was 50-50. But then for her, now she's having to do 100%, because she had the kids. She had to pay the rent. She had to bring food to the table.
This is why I love Lady Gaga's quote. If you're wondering which way to go, always pick your career, because your career's not going to wake up one day and tell you it doesn't love you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And going from that, you know, this was kind of like the first red flag when they got married.
Oh, mate.
So I'm sorry, when you guys are married, the day you woke up after your wedding, like your first morning as a married couple, you woke up, you guys had breakfast, maybe you had morning sex, but you were still in that bubble, right?
Yeah.
This woman said to him, oh, when is the service people coming in to do the beds? What did he say? Oh, that's what you're here for. You can do the beds yourself.
They're not coming. I knew from that moment, I was like, wow.
From that moment.
That's a red flag. That's like all the colour flags. You need to
that's
run.
like alarm bells, flashing lights.
Even before that.
This is your sign.
No, even before that, you know, like when you meet like your suegros, you try to make the best impression, right? You know, when they asked him to wear a specific thing for the Catholic Church and he didn't. Yeah. And the mum came in fuming. From there, I knew, I was like, what person does this on a wedding day?
Like, he clearly had no care
respect.
Of what, anything.
No respect. It was that, no respect.
And, like, moving from that as well, like, you know, pregnancy is very difficult for everyone. Some people, it takes them a while. Some people suffer miscarriages, baby loss. But this man was literally pushing her. Obviously, they never used contraception. I don't really think it was a big thing back then. But he was forcing her to still go ahead with the pregnancies. And she wanted to go to the doctor and be like, you know, I want some sort of contraception. I think it got to a point where she wanted to cut her tubes when she already had 4 kids. And he was like, he kind of was like, not
well, she
sure.
kept hemorrhaging.
Yeah.
And like her veins would pop out. She would throw up throughout the whole pregnancy. So obviously it was very difficult. And touching on that, because they had their kids very early on, well, the 2 girls, you touched on the point, you know, if you want to be rich, you need to take food out of your table. Do that when it's just you 2, you know, maybe 1 kid, that's fine. Don't continue bringing children to make them starve.
Well, she said that, didn't she? She was like, we can just about
she said
cope.
we can hardly cope with them. How are we going to bring another baby? And I think, you know, this might be cheesy, but it was a sign from God, and that's why she lost that baby. Because imagine 5 kids, five pregnancies this lady went through. She just had too much on her plate. And it was one thing, and had she not tied her tubes, she would have had more.
Mama, I love you.
If you walk in, like, you know, you've invested every single day, hour, minute of your life to this man and to your children, but to be expected to not overreact or not react to him finding someone else, like, okay, maybe a few things that she did might have been seen as a bit crazy. Like, some people will say, oh, but you didn't really have to go and kill them. But she didn't instantly go to kill them. She was forced. She was pushed.
I'm sorry, but that bullshit about that she shouldn't have killed them. She should have.
She was pushed to the absolute, like, she was pushed over edge. It was her whole 5 years of her dealing with this mentally, constantly, and, you know, emotionally abused, physically abused even. And it was just like, how people back him and say, you know, this wasn't right, or she's crazy, because that's what they used to say, like, oh, she's crazy. And he would say to his children, your mom is crazy, don't go near. How do you expect me to react if I've given you my absolute all? I've seen you in your worst. We've come through thick and thin, and I get nothing for it.
Well, this is why this story breaks my heart, because it just shows how a man can suck a woman's souls dry. The way we see her, and she's painted out. She was such a great wife, such a great mother. And then it kind of almost paints Dan to be as, you know, success and money changed him. But in saying that, even before he had the money, he just looked like he was one of those machista guys that it was, you know, you kind of, you know your place, I'm up here and you'll just clean my shoes kind of type of way. And we've always said, and, you know, like, sometimes we expect certain things from our partners, and if they don't do it in the get-go, we kind of get annoyed. Imagine she had like a full-time job at home raising these kids, tired because we know how exhausting it is to be at home with kids, and he gets home and is like, oh, go on, I'm hungry, get up and serve me. You don't have hands.
But again, the mentality, right? That was what was expected. When you're married, that's kind of, as a woman, what you were expected to do. You wait on your husband, so no one would ever question it. And yes, even today we still see cases like that. But as time goes on, you start thinking, hold on a second, why? What makes you the superior sex in this relationship? What I found quite disturbing, the lack of responsibility taken by the lady he got with, Linda. The lack of responsibility, the lack of like even a bit of remorse, or it happens, you know, it happens. People can fall in love.
I'm sorry, but no respectful woman will get in between a family, as fucked up as their relationship may be. If you know the man is taken, you don't go there.
I don't think it was love. I think it was, you know, this young lady walks in, kind of sees the CEO, you know, like them gold diggers. She was a receptionist and she literally worked her way up.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't even work because she didn't even know how to type. And within a few weeks, she gets promoted to his personal assistant. I'm sorry, but like we always say, it takes two to tangle. She must have kind of like given him little looks here and there. He might have like, okay, I see where this is going. Whichever way it worked out, if it was him, you know, trying to move to her, she allowed it. She didn't care. And I'm pretty sure she knew he was married because everyone in that office knew. I just see her as a sneaky little bitch. That's what I see her as.
When I watched it, I questioned myself that maybe, was it a part that we didn't see in the series of maybe, do you think Betty was also not doing the wife thing properly?
But what is a proper thing?
But like, say for example, if every single day, like I know we're all kind of like, you guys have hands and you can serve yourself, like, and we also have days that we're like, oh baby, here, like I served your food, and we'll treat them, you know, like we're very equal in our households. But maybe because taking it back to that generation, she lacked in things that they in those times saw as a wife thing. Was it also that he fell out of love a bit, or was it hand in hand with the temptation of obviously a young beautiful woman walking in?
I read that apparently Dan was absent from the household for a very long time before the divorce, and she was so busy trying to create the perfect life for her children without him, because obviously he was always working, that she didn't notice that he abandoned the household. So she basically was carrying this man for the entire, like basically half of the relationship. And at the same time, she was trying to have this perfect life. And I think she has like this perfect home, the perfect little friends, everything. Everyone's like, oh my God, we want your life. That it seems that she was stuck in a fantasy that she created in her head and couldn't see that none of it was real, basically, until it came obviously crashing down. And if you look back to the series, she was a bit not okay, because when he didn't pay for her lawyer, did you guys see that she just kind of stopped fighting because she imagined, she was like, oh, he doesn't want to pay for my lawyer, so that means he doesn't want to get a divorce. Like, she was still oblivious to the fact that he doesn't love you. Like, he's done hurtful things to you. Like, why would you want to be with this man anyways?
She could have had something, obviously, that was never detected. If it was the case now, there probably would have been occasions where it would have been flagged. So, like you said, you know, her lack of even kind of acknowledging certain scenarios as being what they were, you know, could have been an indication that she was suffering from something that maybe wasn't even known at that point. But what was clear was that, like you said, this fantasy life that she was living, and one that probably she felt the pressure of having to continue, and to the people around her, that was what they expected of them. You know, the kids looking from top to bottom pristine in their school uniforms, packed lunch, attending all the school events and sports events, and going on holiday with them. And if Dan couldn't make it, well, he was just working.
Mama, I love you.
You know what's really funny? That when my parents broke up, and obviously we found out who the other woman was, my mum on several occasions would beat the other woman up, and my mum would have people say to her, like, when are you gonna stop? Like, why? What are you getting out of it? And I remember she would say, like, this is kind of like letting out my emotions, and you know, one of her sisters said to her, like, that's just crazy, like, don't stop doing that, like, you're not getting anywhere. And it's just like, this is kind of like what Betty thought as well, like, you know, when she went to the house to graffiti everything up, and I witnessed my mom smashing the car door on this woman's head. Like, she literally dragged her out of my dad's car and got the door and just smacked it on the head. And every time we would go out, and I would fear for my life to see this woman there, because I thought, oh my God, like, my mom's gonna beat her up and the police is gonna come and like take me away from her. But I could see that after this, my mom would feel probably that less, like, drowned in her emotions and everything that was going on at that moment. Also, not saying like it was the best way, because like Erica said, it takes two to tango. The reality is that it was all three of them that were in this, you know. So when Betty was going in and, like, you know, destroying their house, and when she crashed her car into their house, it was also like a red flag for them, as like, let me voice out what I'm feeling, because it was like she wasn't allowed to feel anything. Like, she wasn't allowed to express herself. Even if she wanted to speak to him, they would call the police on her. And the fact that her children were like, don't come near here, you're not allowed to be here. It's like she was suppressed. She had to suppress her feelings so much that, like, she never had a chance to actually speak for herself. And if she wanted to speak for herself, she'd have to get a lawyer, which she didn't have money for, because Dan was the one paying all her expenses, and it obviously wasn't enough. So it's just taking that voice away from her now.
Well, like Dan said, you know, I own your life.
Yeah.
That word, that line for me, I was like,
That's so rude.
Nah, you
That
can
is so
never,
rude.
never. I don't care how long you've been with your husband, but you can never ever allow your husband to have that much control of your
And
life.
it's like you're a property. What am I? A piece of
Like,
furniture?
just because you pay for my shit does not give you any right that I'm yours. Like,
Nah, you know what?
talking about me.
You know, when she asked him, when did this divorce begin, and he said the day of our wedding. Oh,
that
guys,
touched the nerve.
I cannot.
Do you know, it's crazy, because what you were saying about her trashing, she's obviously hurt. She obviously loved the guy. She obviously still probably loved him when all of this was happening.
She probably still loves him now.
Yeah, and that's why she reacted the way, obviously not condoning that everything that she did was right.
Oh, I do, 100%.
But out of her the way she reacted, you don't react like that if you don't feel an emotion, and the emotion she was probably feeling was love and hurt. You know, this person I dedicated my whole life to, the person I decided to raise a family with, has now literally stabbed me in the back, and I'm expected to just pretend everything is okay. Like, come on now. And like you said, suppressing your feelings.
Yeah, and it's like no one cared about the pain that she was feeling. Like, absolutely, not even her kids. In the interview, her son was like, just knock on and move on. A person I've invested my whole life into. I'm just meant to, like, oh, okay, well, yeah, you know, this lady that she's literally just walked in, she's just going to walk in and be mummy of the year to you guys, whilst I've given everything to you guys. You know, and I'm not being funny, but, like, it's 50-50, hun. Like, we were in this together.
Nah, them kids are fucked up, you know. But I think when we see it as a whole, it's like, we know, like, nos han dicho, los hijos son prestados. So the fact that she didn't even if she wasn't even allowed to have her own children, didn't help the situation. I feel like it could have made it a bit better, because if she would have had that responsibility still at home, she could have, I guess, focused energy on raising them as well.
Yeah, no, I think that was the turnover for her.
Yeah.
I think taking her kids away
was the last.
just tilt.
Yeah.
It tilt the cup. It was just like, okay, enough.
If she would have been allowed to have her kids, to say the 2 boys, which was what she wanted, she probably would have focused her energy on, you know what, I need to get up. Yeah, I'm hurt, and yes, I'll probably still continue to make Dan's life hell, but I'm gonna get up and do the best that I can for my kids and continue, you know, like she would have still had a purpose. And even though, you know, we're saying outside of kids, we do have to have this purpose, because if this was to happen to us, or our kids were to, you know, argue and just tell us to fuck off and leave, we have to have a purpose or something to fall back on and be like, you know what, all right, cool. My kids told me to fuck off. They want me dead. Like, because we've had situations that your kids are literally saying to you, you're dead to me. So at that point, it's like, self-care is so important, because when everyone is gone and it's just you in that room or you in this house that's empty, the only thing that matters in the world is you.
A question that Ollie always asks me is like, when the kids are grown up, what are you going to do for you? And I don't know what to answer. Again, because I'm so invested into my kids. It's like I have, you know, like my life is them. So if I didn't have them, I'll probably be dead. And it's so sad. It's absolutely so sad, because my kids are going to leave me one day. Unless I become a baby making machine and I'm 50 and I'm still making babies, then they'll never leave me. But that's not the case. That part for me, like, I don't know. I don't know what I would do if my kids turned round and just kind of like gave me a kick in the butt and said...
So let's say, okay, so obviously towards the end of kind of the messy breakup, the kids were living with the dad, and especially like the 2 boys, they were younger, so more easier to feed these lies or to really get into their brains. And maybe the way that they acted was because of that influence that the dad was putting upon them. You know, your mum is this, or this is what your mum's doing. And obviously it didn't really help that when she did call and contact them, she was quite aggressive. And so, you know, they, as children, you see it, you know, daddy's telling me mummy's crazy or she's not a very nice person because she says this, and now when mummy's calling, she's doing this, so actually daddy's right, so I trust what daddy says. And you know, maybe that not defending the kids, especially because their 2 daughters, they were old enough to kind of understand.
Well, I think for me it was more the daughters, because in the interview, yes, the boy kind of agrees with Kim, which is the oldest daughter, but he also says, me and Rhett just wanted to really live with our mom, and he was like, we just felt safer with my mom, like we wanted to be with her, but dad wouldn't allow us. Whereas the girl in the interview mentioned, you know, she took away the chance of the way that we had to live, and for me that felt like more, you know, you were
materialistic.
Yeah, like you don't have the power and the money that your dad had, basically. So it's finished. Maybe they're well off, but they will never be what they were. They won't be how they were back then, if that makes sense. And I think she was driven by that. Like, she's just angry at her mum because she can't live the lavish life anymore. That's how it sounded to me.
Yeah, they were very superficial, the girl, especially because she actually said, my dad wasn't a great dad, but he tried. And then it's like, are you listening to yourself, please? It's like, how do you just all of a sudden forget what your mom has done for you, what the moments that you've lived with your mom, like, just, it's like they just put a little switch on all of them, and you know that, because I'm pretty sure before all of this, it was clear to us that she put her kids in front of everything. So why like, I'm not saying like there's no right for you to you know, not be angry at your mom for killing your dad, but aside of that, at the moment before she killed their dad, they were already seeing her as like, you're nothing, you're a zero to us.
I understand why, and I don't think they hate their mum, they just feel resentment towards her. My thing is, even before, like, I don't think she even got the support she needed emotionally. Like, we obviously have never been through a divorce, but I can just about imagine how difficult it must be. Again, taking her kids away was like the last straw for her, but her kids not being supportive could have added more to the cup, because it's like, you know, I have nothing. Her parents ditched her in the moment that she basically had no one, guys. Like, you know, like if like we were one of us were to break up with our partners, we'll have someone off to, like, you know, to bounce off with. We will have our support system, which is our parents. We'll have our kids. So to some extent, we won't lose it completely. But imagine your parents turning their back on you, your kids thinking you're a psycho and not wanting anything, like not wanting to be with you, or wanting to be with you and you hear them cry y patalear on the phone to you, "Mummy, please come get me. Mummy, please come get me." But you can't because you've got restraining orders. And your husband basically controlling your life. Like, you have no money for yourself.
She had one friend, that lady that she went to dance with, and she
Yeah,
was the only one that
exactly.
stood by her, especially in the court.
In the court,
because the rest of them,
They're all
wow.
dickheads.
And even her lawyer was like, so you know that she was this and that, but yet she was still
And
your
you were still friends with her.
maybe when you're wealthy you have friends with interest, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%.
So they were just there because
like,
we're all part of the same status, we go to the
Exactly,
same golf
exactly.
club,
It's
and we
just
like
that.
to do this. So we're acquaintances, really. They're not the types of people that, you know, we have friends that become family, friends that are there through thick and thin and who have picked you up from crap to support you.
If they went broke, these friends wouldn't be your
Oh,
friends
no.
anymore.
Well, they were turning her back on her when, you know, she was going through this whole. At the beginning they were listening, and towards the end they didn't want to know her, so she was alone.
Would you guys judge me if I got cheated on and we split up and then I went and killed them both?
No, I'll probably help you.
Erica would be like, "I've got the location to bury the bodies."
They wouldn't find them. That's the only thing. We'll probably be sitting here making an episode and no one would know anything.
That's my point. Like, the fact that they were women, they also were living that same lifestyle as Betty was, because being a partner to someone that has so much money and so much power and wealth is not the easiest.
Well, one
never-
of them went through it, didn't
Yeah,
she?
exactly. And it's just like,
Yeah, and Betty was there.
literally, yeah, they could see what she was going through. They could understand. Like,
Another point, sorry, can I just say, do you think the system basically failed her in the way that they gave Dan, again, it's down to his power, I understand, but so you're telling me for the longest of time I've had these kids in my custody, my full custody, because Dan is obviously working and I'm a great mum, so I do everything good to provide for my children, and then all of a sudden you want to divorce me and I become a bad mum and my kids get taken away from me because I dropped them off once. You have nothing else against me because there's actually absolutely nothing else against
Well,
me.
they were buddies, right? Because you can see when he went to the court and she didn't attend, they were literally just talking as if they were best friends.
But that's the thing, because they're lawyers, they all know each other.
But again, it's their lawyers. They're all men. They're all, you know, kind of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back.
Well, didn't you see the episode when he was like, I want to get a divorce, and then everyone started to tell him, you know, stop putting this in your name and blah blah blah, changing everything. So I ya no le tocaba nada.
this is how despicably disgusting this man was.
Mate.
You're there because of me. I'm not asking you to give me half and half. I understand that, you know, you put your sweat and everything into your job and everything. I understand. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to be mothering your children, and I still have to have, like Betty said, I still need to be able to support the lifestyle that they are used to.
Would you agree that she should be free now?
Or at least in a mental institute.
I was going to say, I think
Because
I don't think she deserves a mental institute.
But this is
she deserved a mental institute when she got put in jail. Now
But this is what she needed back then.
Now she deserves freedom.
Yeah.
She deserves freedom.
She probably needs like therapy, because even though she's probably going through therapy in prison,
Free Betty Broderick.
she probably, I mean, things like that, you probably need therapy for the rest of your life to recover, or not even to recover, but just to kind of accept and in a way move on in a weird way.
When you're going through a tough marriage, a rough patch in your marriage, you have what are these therapy sessions called for the couple? Marriage counselling, right? To keep you guys kind of like leveled up. Why was none of this offered to her after like going through all these crazy things? Like, at no point did they ever say, you need to see a psychologist just to make sure that you're doing fine. No one cared about her feelings. No one gave a shit. It was just a man in power.
You need to understand, Moo. The point here is She didn't have money for it. These things cost money.
The money was coming from him.
Where was she going to get it from? He put her in a mental institute when she crashed her car in his door.
Oh,
she had to pay it, and she had to pay for his door. So you put me in a psych ward, and then you send me the bill.
Do you know what
when I didn't even want to go?
Do you know what I found actually disgusting was when he would record himself and say, every time you swear or every time you do this, I'm deducting this money. I literally thought, my gosh, this lady is being controlled.
She was a puppet.
So badly.
Beyond measures.
There's
like,
no other word for it.
Yeah.
She was a puppet.
It's like, you have to say this, and I've left you for a younger woman. And we don't see it in the Netflix series, but I've read, and even the kids say that, you know, he used to like hit her. He used to call her fat, ugly, old. You're 40 years old. What do you expect? She's not going to stay 20 anymore. Like, we move on. Come on, like, put yourself in Betty's shoes. You've been with your partner for how long, yeah?
I thought you were going to say you're fat.
No, you've been with your partner for like, okay, Mel, you, because you've been together the longest. You guys have been together for 14 years, right?
13. This is awkward if I get it wrong.
Okay, 13, right? And then, obviously, Dan seen you when you were little, and now you're big. Well, you haven't really grown, but you get the drift. And then he breaks up with you and gets with a girl that, say, is 18.
Yeah.
Isn't that going to tickle your... Like,
Of
you'll
course,
be fuming.
of course. I'll be like, wow, you know, you literally like, you know, am I not like red wine aging gracefully? Have you literally just decided to tirarme to the curb and go for some fresh meat kind of? I don't know. I mean, obviously in the series we also see that they go with the church to this like counselling, right? And she was the one that was really like pushing for it. So maybe they were kind of cues from before Dan meeting the secretary and falling for her or getting involved with her. Maybe their marriage was already going downhill, but maybe, let's say, Betty never wanted to accept that because, of course, you know, she still loved him, and in a way where they weren't, you know, in the series you see that he works a lot and he's absent from the house. You would kind of think, because you're not in each other's faces all the time, you miss each other more, but actually at the same time it can also work against you, which is probably...
You can get used to not seeing the other person, so it just becomes a thing where, I don't miss him anymore.
Yeah, and as well, you know, an opportunity for both of them, if she would have wanted to, if she had time to, seek other people. Because how many times have we heard of situations where the guy or the woman is out a lot and then all of a sudden they get lonely and then surprise, an entanglement.
Literally.
Well, even when, like, say you've just given birth or whatever and you're going through this whole journey and your man is just out there living his best life with other hoes and you're at home thinking...
See, I would kill him straight away. That's why I'm like Team Betty. Like, I can't believe...
Free Betty.
So wait, she's been with... They were together, married, for 16 years. And she went through torture, like physical torture, for 5 years before she killed them. 5 years.
Do you know how many days that is?
5 years of emotional torture.
And you know what? We all know that, let's say, for example, once you have a baby, big life-changing scenarios in your life that can trigger imbalances, yeah? So her divorce...
Well, I was going to say, Camilla pisses me off for a week and I want to kill him. So imagine 5 years.
But like, seriously...
That's 1,825 days
imagine
of emotional abuse, of doubting yourself.
And even
everything.
when you're having a good day, when you're sleeping, you're probably still dreaming. You're probably so
but
like...
she didn't have good
no,
days,
I know,
Fish.
but like, even... No, because let's say in the series when it was like Easter and she got her Easter egg.
She didn't
no,
get
I
the
know,
kids, though.
I know, but she
Let her
thought
land.
she was. So,
She was like
but
broken
she was happy.
and broke even more. So it was like an egg crack.
I know, but she was happy.
She was looking forward to that day.
Exactly. She was happy to have the idea of having her children. So despite all the crap that was happening, she kind of put it to one side and thought, I'm going for the kids. And that bit for me, when he drove away with the children, that hurt. because I thought, wow.
But imagine. So why would you get ever happy again? Because he makes the decisions. So there isn't. This is what pissed me off. Like, how controlling is this motherfucker that it was like he was flipping God? Where was the system? You know, kids, you know, their mother has this amount of days with them, or the dad, you know, even if it was, he had to be there. But how does this guy have control and be like, yep, no, I've changed my mind. I don't want them to see the kids anymore.
She was definitely emotionally abused.
I think, you know, of me being in that situation and like Camilo playing with me, like, oh, you can have the kids today. Oh, no, actually, something's come up. I will get annoyed. And if it keeps reoccurring, and imagine 5 years of this. Again, like we said, one of the jurors said, why did it take her so long? A person, like a neutral person that was seeing the case, even thought, wow, like, she took a long time to not kill them before. Because that's how messed up everything was.
Well, let's not forget that she obviously says that the night that she killed him, she was going to kill herself. And the thing is, obviously, you know, this is a very one-sided. We only see kind of her account obviously what the kids say. You know, they're not here to give their story and their way. Everything that we're seeing is kind of secondhand. The other thing I always, to kind of be neutral, is we never know what's going on behind closed doors. And by that, I even mean the children. Because, you know, we've had...
Children are different.
we've had, you know, guest speaking where as a child you will cover your ears, you know. As parents, if you're going to argue, you will try to do it away from your children. So we don't even know the extent that maybe they went through behind just the two of them.
I'm sorry, I disagree.
No, but as in, because like, we don't know how bad. No, I don't care how bad it was. Like, I've seen, like, I heard the recording and I know it was bad. I'm not condoning how she behaved, Fish. But if we went through a nasty divorce and it's like stated on paper, so this isn't secondhand information. This is what was presented to the court. Everything he did to her, he manipulated her. The kids knew, right? And they badmouth their mum. So it's like you being with an abuser and your kid saying, well, shame on you. You just have to take it. How would you feel as a mother? Well, of course you would feel defeated. You feel like, I've literally given my whole life. But I'm kind of saying it. Life. Yeah, like I'm saying it from the point of, in the way of like Betty's defense. No one would ever know the extent that she went through, because even when she was given her story, everyone probably took it with a bit of a pinch of salt, because it's like you were deemed as this crazy person. So no one, even when she was saying he probably did this to me and he probably did that to me or whatever, she already has that title on her head, you know.
Yeah.
You know that
given by him.
You know that
everyone said she was crazy because of him.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, you know that moment when you just said kids are dickheads, at her daughter's graduation and she went to run and hug Linda.
Exactly.
Wait, if I ever did that in front of my... Do you know?
No, I'm sorry, but...
I would be 6 feet underground.
My mum would punch me to Colombia.
Yeah, I thought she was running to her mum.
Guys, this is why I'm so hurt, because as a mother, you feel that, like... till this... I watched it like 2 weeks ago, and till this day, it's still... And I look at my kids, sometimes con rabia, and I'm like, oh my God, if you ever... You know, if Ollie gets another girlfriend and they prefer her over me, like, I could be like, you know, a moany ass girl, you know, but I'm doing things with love. I'm doing things because I want the best for my kids. And then this new person, woof, swifts them off their feet. Nah, mate. Like me, as the woman I am today, my mum's hit me. My mum's, you know, she's not the best mum in the world. But for me, she is. If anything like this was to go down, I would never on national television badmouth my mum. If anything, I say that I am the woman I am today because of everything my mum did to me. She didn't abuse me or anything, like, before anyone thinks that. But that's what I say. And I would never say, you know, like, oh, yeah, my mum's shit. Like, you know, she used to beat me to basically death. But even if my mum was a prostitute, like, I would still back my mum 100%. Because this is the thing, Fish. You primarily said it The mom is the one that pauses her life for her kids. Even in this generation, the dad just, they continue their life as normal. And yet this woman, it's just, for me, it's just hearing the kids, how they talk. And I say the kids, but for me, it was Kim, like the eldest daughter. And imagine the eldest daughter, the one that lived through... Like,
she went through the struggle.
Exactly.
And maybe she was sheltered from the fact that she wasn't born into wealth. So she was part of the struggle. Do you get me? So maybe she was sheltered into living this perfect bubble, because that saying that Dan had of kind of, if you believe you're rich, or you have to portray. So maybe they brought her up thinking that she had everything, and maybe in a way she was kind of snobby, like, let's say. I mean, not saying that because you're rich you're snobby, but that's probably how she came across. And you would think that someone that's gone through a struggle, you would expect them to always remember to be humble.
It's a very hard one for me. Like, it was a really hard story to swallow, and I've never seen anything like that. And again, I've seen loads of comments, I don't condone what she did. I'm not saying murder is the best thing to do, because at the end of the day, Betty didn't get anything out of it. Although she says she feels at peace. Why does she feel at peace? Because she's not being called fat. Because, she feels like, okay, I'm at jail. Like, no one's being tormented.
Well, she said she felt safe though, didn't she?
Imagine feeling safe in jail.
Mama's Code.
Have you guys ever experienced, when, I don't know if you guys have ever had a really strong argument that you kind of lose focus on what's happening and your mind goes kind of blank? I've had that, and you can really lose track of what's happening around you. You go blind, when they say you go ciego de la rabia, that actually happens. So I kind of start thinking, do you think that's what happened to her, or do you think she genuinely went there to kill them? Because in her speech in court, she said she took the gun there because she just wanted them to listen to her. That's all she wanted. So
kind of to threat them, but...
Yeah. So if you don't... Because basically, we've always established, she didn't have a voice. She couldn't say anything because, if Dan would find her, he would take away money, he would put more restraining orders, she wouldn't be allowed to see the kids. So there were a list of 1,000 things that she couldn't do. So show her emotions was frowned upon. So she went there to be able to kind of express herself.
All right, I'm Team Betty, but who goes in the middle of the night to speak to someone when everyone's asleep with a gun?
And doesn't knock.
Yeah.
I think she went to kill them.
Because she said it herself. She was on her way to the beach to kill herself. But I think in that journey, she filled herself with that blindness that you're talking about, of when you're literally tipped over the edge. You're not yourself. You're out of your body.
Yeah.
So that whole anger, that whole mixed emotions, that she just went there for it. You can't tell me that you're going in the middle of the night to speak to someone. You know that they're sleeping.
Yeah, I definitely.
And start shooting in the middle of the darkness. Do you not want to turn the lights on and speak to them?
I don't think there's time to turn the lights on though.
or at least...
you're getting a bit over the... What story are you inventing? Oh, hold on, I've just come with a gun. I'm going to turn some lights on.
No, but say she's walked into the room sneakily and started shooting. She hasn't even tried to say anything.
How do you know this? Not even I know this, and I've read so deep
because didn't she say that she startled and then she just started pew, pew, pew?
No, because they were talking. See, you missed the whole point. Dan wasn't even on the bed.
I'm putting myself in her shoes.
What series was she looking at?
Jess, that was Jess going in to kill Jay.
That was my blindness.
Because Dan was up, he fell on the floor
to get the phone.
Yeah, so she didn't just go in there and pew pew pew. No, it didn't happen like that. See, now you're confusing our listeners. They're gonna be Team Dan now. But yeah, no, I from watching the series and reading on it, I do think that she just went there to kill them. I think she kind of had a thing. O son ellos o soy yo.
Yeah.
We can't be in the same planet together.
What's our golden tip?
Kill your man.
If your man leaves you, you go kill both of them.
Stop.
No, don't say that. They might shut out our podcast.
We'll get cancelled.
This will be the end of Mama's Code. Mama's Code out.
No, I think
for life.
We'll get cancelled with 2020. We'll have to come back like Code Mama.
This is Mesh.
This is not Shem. This is
wear a
Mesh.
mask or something.
I think the whole, you know, kind of moral of the story and all of this is that, you know, we've said it so many times, but you matter so much more than you actually think you do. And you have to prioritize yourself. You know, we said it in our season finale, like even the guy said, you know, you have to be selfish for your own sanity. You can't be a good version for your children and for those around you if you're not at peace with yourself, if you're not putting yourself as a priority, you know. Even if it means doing 5-10 minutes of, I don't know, meditation, a bath or a story or a walk, like you're actually giving yourself those 10 minutes or half an hour, whatever time you have, to put yourself first and think about how you're feeling and kind of vent the way you're feeling. Because sometimes, you know, we've said it, we get so caught up in anger in the moment, in stress, in like, oh my God, I'm so fed up, I'm done with this shit, that you don't actually think, okay, if you're done with this shit and you actually decide to leave your family and walk out, what is there for you? Like, what else is there?
I'm not against, you know, people that depend solely on their partners, but I do think that you have to kind of question, like, I'm not saying, you know, you have to think, okay, this person's going to leave me, because again, you don't walk into a relationship thinking this is going to end, but you have to put your hand in your heart and kind of say, if this was to finish, what do I have that belongs to me? What can I make a living with what I have?
Or what safety net?
If the answer is no, if the answer is no, you have nothing for yourself, because you might turn around and be like, well, you know, I have my kid. Unfortunately, your kid is not going to bring money to the table. You need to, like Mel says, that you need to have a safety net. So even if it means, you know, putting some of the money that your partner gives you to one side and not touching that, have like a savings, an investment for yourself. If like 10 years in the line you want to do a beauty course, you have the money there. You don't always have to go to your partner and kind of look sideways and be like, well, you know, I want to do this, but I can't because where do I have the money? Like, you shouldn't live like that. You should save and make your dreams happen. You shouldn't just wait, like, oh, maybe like in a few years' time, you know.
Or when he allows me to.
One day you're here, the next day you're not, and it's valuable. Yeah. It's a valuable lesson we need to learn.
No, 100%.
Like, we never know when our time will come. So if you can live every day like it's your last, live it.
Mama's Code out. Mwah. Mama's Code.